Hey guys, welcome back to Mondays at the Museum. I'm Carrie and I'm here at the Anna Bemis Palmer Museum in York, Nebraska. For today's video, I'm going to give you a quick history of Thayer, Nebraska, and then I'm going to show you the Thayer section of our History of York County display. So, Thayer, the town, was named after a guy named John Milton Thayer, who was actually a general in the Union Army. So that's very exciting. It was originally platted in 1887 on some land owned by a guy named David Price. Although it wasn't officially incorporated until 1914. Peak population for Thayer hit like the 200s in the 1920s, but it's kind of gone downhill since there. For those wondering, current population I think is 51, so super small town. A big thing back in the day was the Thayer flour mill. It operated basically since day one of Thayer. So originally it was set up on what they called an earthen dam, and that's just to say that it was made out of like clay and rocks and soil. But apparently there were so many washouts that had to be replaced with a concrete one, and that was in like 1912. So some fun facts about there. In the winter months, they would cut blocks of ice for the community to use throughout the summer, right? And some of these were sent as far as Fremont by train, but people would come from miles around to pick up their own. And it's said that like during peak rush time for pickup, which was like right at sunrise, that wagons could be seen lined up for a quarter of a mile. Like that's how popular it was. And I actually have this really cool picture that I'm going to show you right now. Hang tight. Okay, it's coming out of this Greater York Area Centennial book, which I know is backwards to you. I apologize. But check this out. It says this is in like 1912, but check out the line of wagons. Oh, and then there's a picture of the mill and the dam as well. Okay, so there were three churches linked to Thayer history. So the first one was the Methodist Church. Then they had the Zion Lutheran Church, and then a Presbyterian church came along as well. At one time, there were two grain elevators. However, they did lose one to a fire. There was also an opera house where the school held plays and different entertainers came through and stuff like that. Eventually, a guy bought the property and turned it into a garage. From the 30s to like 1953-ish, the town used to host free movie nights on Friday nights, generally after a ball game. And so that was really popular back in the day. And there did used to be train tracks that went through Thayer, and actually a depot was built right away in 1887. However, during World War II, those were taken and used for war efforts, which I think is interesting part of history there. And one thing that I haven't covered yet in any of my videos that I can remember is the effect that grasshoppers have had on York County. If you know anything about grasshoppers, and I know this is an obscure history thing, but like grasshoppers are really hard on crops because they just eat everything, right? So back in the 1800s, grasshoppers were like a menace to York County, to the point that county officials would pay you $2 for a bushel of dead grasshoppers. And like that's how they got rid of them, was they encouraged people to kill grasshoppers and then sell them to them. So apparently back during this time, they had a significant impact on Thayer, and actually a lot of people even moved from Thayer because of the grasshoppers everywhere. So interesting bit of trivia there. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the Thayer section of our History of York County display. Let's go take a tour. Okay, so here is the Thayer section as a whole, and I'm going to start with this bill of sale here. So it is from 1845, so it says peremptory sale, and it gives the address, and then it is auctioned by Mr. Williams, and you can see here the date. It says Saturday, the 22nd of March, 1845, and then it lists all the things that are going to be for sale. So you can see lambs, cows, horses, pigs, and then you get to things like plows and wheelbarrows and rakes and all sorts of stuff. And it even comes with its own write-up there from 1845. So here's a bird's eye view of the town. This says it is from 1944. We also have Main Street from 1920. So you can see basically everybody lined up there. And here's a picture of Steve and Gail Henson. So if you watched earlier episodes, you'll know that a guy from Thayer, Nebraska went on to invent Hidden Valley Ranch. He was a plumber in the bushes of Alaska. He ran a restaurant there. He developed the recipe to keep his men happy, basically. He retired and bought a ranch in California where he also served the dressing. People came from miles around, and he started shipping it out in packages of powder. So all you had to do was add buttermilk and mayo, and Clorox got wind of it and bought it off him for a few million, and in today that's several million for inflation dollars. So good on you for coming from Thayer, Nebraska. And right next to the picture is actually this write-up about him by his good buddy Hub Foster. So that's an article from 2005, and he describes him as mischievous and said he pulled a lot of pranks back in the day. So just a really neat story there. We also have a lot of photos in the area. So here's one. It says wholesale and retail storefront. It's poultry, butter, eggs, and cream. And then another one, early 1900s there, also of Main Street. Then we have a couple of date plates, as I called them, although I don't know what the technical term is, but this is 1911 and 1912 from J.J. Brittle, and then this one is 1911 from the hardware store there. Also, we have this needle book from the Bank of Thayer. It says 1906 there. We have a program for the reopening of the Methodist Church in 1910. We have this autograph book, which is filled with signatures and well wishes to Nels Cline. The earliest was in 1903, although it is several years of those. We also have this Matlock repair pen, and yeah, it's like a wrench, but it's a pen. So cool. And Matlock Repair is Thayer's finest, according to the wrench pen. Here is a graduation program, and it is actually from 1910, so it's like an invitation to the 1910 graduation. We also have this wedding dress here. So this dress was worn in 1909 by Nellie Coons in her wedding to Ambrose Stream. So they got married September 1st, 1909, and you can actually see a picture of them right here. So her dad was named Melvin, and he was a grain buyer, and he actually oversaw the construction of one of those elevators. They went on to have 5 children, Nellie and Ambrose did, and she passed away in 1942, and he passed away in 1964, and they were both buried together in the Waco Cemetery. Now I'm going to show you the rest of the photos that we have. So you can see this greeting card here with the highlights from the town. So here is again talk of how that railroad track went on for war efforts. You can see the railroad tracks behind the buggy there. Here's a bird's eye view of town. And another one here, it says north end looking south. Here's the old depot, which you can see does say Thayer on the building. Another angle of the depot with a train there. It was right on Lincoln Creek, so had a fishery. Love the guys, just the hands on the edges of the photo. That's great to make that picture happen. Here's an excavation that's going on. Here's another picture of that old dam that I showed you, same picture, it was in that book. Here's the Presbyterian Church, and kind of a collection of people from early Thayer history. We also have a picture of the school, and then some more storefronts as well. So that is the Thayer section of our History of York County display. There's still a little bit of time to come and see it. We do run all the way through February 28th, so make sure to swing by. We'll see you next week when we talk about Gresham, Nebraska.